Go. Do not touch me.
Ma'am. Exit the airport.
Don't touch me.
Exit the airport. Keep walking. Keep walking.
I am walking.
Isn't it satisfying when entitled Karens finally get what's coming to them? The days of their tantrums may not be over, but now they're facing consequences they never saw coming. What happens when their privileges run out? Take a look. This Karen causes such a scene at the airport that she actually gets arrested for it. It all starts with her attitude before boarding her flight, when she just couldn't resist pushing the female officer who was being incredibly patient with her. The officer politely asks her to leave the airport, but this Karen snaps back, acting like she's the one in charge. When someone mentions that it's the officer's job to give instructions, Karen refuses to listen. Why would she? She is a Karen after all. What else can you expect? The officer asks if she has any baggage, and Karen claims she doesn't. When told to take the rail, Karen argues she doesn't need to go there since she's got no bags, even though the officer explains that's where people get picked up. Karen insisted that no one is coming for her, but the officer calmly suggests that she needs to head outside. Instead of cooperating, Karen keeps talking, saying she's already walking in that direction. The officer is trying so hard not to lose cool at this point. Karen then gets snippy, asking if the officer is going to let her go or call someone. The officer stays firm, mentioning that Uber and Lyft are downstairs. But this Karen is barely done with her drama. The officer follows her to ensure she leaves, reminding her that calling a friend, Uber or Lyft is the best bet to avoid jail. Karen, of course, has to have the last word, claiming her ride is on the way but refuses to check how far it is. She then tells the officer she'd rather go to jail because she has lawyers on standby. The officer, trying to stay reasonable, asks if she's serious, and Karen, practically daring her, says yes. What was the need for all of this in the first place? The situation gets worse as Karen starts resisting arrest, accusing the officer of dragging her and demanding to be let go. Karen even bites the officer, taking her entitlement to a whole new level. With no signs of backing down, she keeps ranting about calling her lawyer and throwing out sarcastic remarks as if she's in control of the situation. As they go through the motions, Karen keeps up her nonsense behavior, complaining and making unnecessary comments. At one point, she even accuses the cops of purposely leaving her phone on the floor. In the end, she gets exactly what she asked for, arrested, and her husband had to bail her out. What else was she expecting anyway? Anyway, moving on. Next, we have another biter. A Karen audacity should be studied in colleges because this is simply not normal. Take the scene in Gillette, Illinois, for example. A police officer who was called to Walgreens to deal with a 29-year-old Samantha Jo Bravado suspected of shoplifting. But when the officer tried to arrest her, things quickly got out of control. Bravado fought back with everything she had, which included biting the officer. The body cam footage showed the wild chase that followed as Bravado bolted into the nearby woods, ignoring the officer's repeated commands to stop. Even when cornered, she refused to cooperate, begging to be let go, but still resisting fiercely. This situation hit a new low when Bravado decided to sink her teeth into the officer, which only made things worse for her. Despite her best efforts to escape and hide in the bush during the rain, the police quickly set up a perimeter. Bravado was a Karen till the end and continued to threaten the officers, refusing to come out. But it wasn't long before a police canine sniffed her out, leading to her arrest. A search revealed that Bravado had more than just stolen goods on her. She was also carrying what looked like rocks of cocaine. Charged with aggravated battery on a peaceful officer, resisting arrest, possession of a controlled substance, and retail theft, Bravado's day ended in handcuffs. Should she have seen that coming? This is Melissa Harvick. She made headlines after causing absolute chaos in a courtroom. Chaos that ended her with facing charges for attacking a judge. It all started during a domestic violence complaint hearing overseen by Judge Jennifer Upchurch Edwards. Melissa, clearly not happy with how things are going, decided to take matters into her own hands, quite literally. She jumped over the judge's bench and tried to go for her. Investigators quickly piled on more charges, including intimidating a legal participant, making terroristic threats, and resisting arrest. The whole thing was caught on video, showing just how far Melissa was willing to go. While divorce hearings can get tense, this thing took a whole new level. Even those with decades of experience were left speechless. The circuit clerk, who had been around for 20 years, admitted he'd never seen anything like this. Even the court security officers couldn't believe what he saw. He and two others had to jump into action to restrain Melissa before things got even worse. As she was being dragged out, Melissa kept yelling at the judge. Thankfully, Judge Edwards was unharmed, but Melissa's problems are just beginning. She's now facing serious criminal charges for her threats and attack, and another judge will be taking over her case. She ended up in jail for contempt of court. The days of always getting your way are over, Karen. Next, we have a regular traffic stop that turned into a pure chaos because of one entitled woman who just can't help herself. It all kicks off when the officer politely asks her to close her door and get back into the car. Simple enough, right? But not for her. She immediately starts calling for backup and arguing with officers, challenging every single thing he says as if she's about the law. As you can imagine, things escalated fast. The officer, clearly done with her attitude, decides it's time to take control and announce her arrest. But Karen, being Karen, isn't going down without a fight. She demands to know why she's being arrested, while the officer accuses her of doing something incredibly foolish and asks for her ID. He suspects she's under some influence and prepares to run some sobriety tests. Why else would anyone act so irrationally? Karen insists the cuffs come off and that she's perfectly ready to prove she's sober. The officer reads her Miranda rights, mentioning the loud music and running a red light as reason for the stop. Despite clear signs of intoxication, like those telltale bloodshot eyes, Karen keeps resisting, making the situation even worse. It turned out not only was her license revoked, but she also got connections to a previous incident all the way in Minnesota. The officer didn't hold back, of course, issuing her a stack of tickets and even recalling past run-ins. To top it off, they decided to impound the car, drive home just how serious her actions have become. Well, it seems like the universe had different plans for you, Karen. Check this out. This Karen stormed into court, fully prepared to fight a personal protection order she believed was filed against her. But here's the thing, there was no PPO in place yet. That didn't stop Karen from launching accusations, convinced she was already under attack. As she unleashed her nonsense, the judge tried to get Karen to focus on the facts, but she was too wrapped up in her self-righteousness to be silenced, demanding sanctions against her complainer. Karen seemed blissfully unaware that she hadn't even been served the PPO papers she was so worked up about. The judge, visibly frustrated, finally had enough and hit Karen with a $500 fine for wasting everyone's time with her premature outburst. In the end, Karen's courtroom antics earned her not just a fine, but also a reality check. Maybe next time she'll think twice. Here we have another self-righteous Karen, the owner of a small diner who seemed to think that COVID rules and food safety regulations were nothing more than suggestions she could casually ignore. But as she was about to find out, she couldn't have been more mistaken. Dragged into court for blatantly flouting the law, Karen entered the courtroom with the same entitled attitude. But the judge wasn't about to let her get away with it. The judge made it crystal clear that this wasn't some corner booth where Karen could call the shots. This was a courtroom, and here the only thing that mattered was the truth. Karen, of course, didn't take kindly to being called out. Ignoring the judge's warnings, Karen doubled down, refusing to admit she had done anything wrong. But the judge didn't have it. She handed down a $7,500 fine and sentenced Karen to 93 days in jail for her contempt of court. That's right. This judge was making sure Karen learned a lesson she wouldn't soon forget. This Karen learned that rules apply to everyone, even her, only she had to learn it the hard way. That concludes today's video. Make sure to subscribe to our channel for more engaging content. See you in the next video.